Something unusual is happening around the clay season, and if you've been paying even a little attention to the early signals coming out of Stuttgart, you've probably felt it too. There's a certain kind of tension building, the kind that doesn't come from confirmed headlines but from possibilities that feel almost too perfect to ignore. At the center of it all are two names that, on paper, may not look like an obvious collision yet somehow carry a narrative weight far beyond rankings or recent results. Alexandra Eala and Leylah Fernandez are moving on trajectories that could intersect at exactly the kind of moment the tennis world loves to amplify. Now, before anything else, let's be clear about one thing. What we're looking at right now is not a confirmed blockbuster showdown, not a guaranteed first-round clash, but a scenario that the draw could realistically produce, and that alone is enough to get fans talking. Because sometimes in tennis, the idea of a match carries just as much energy as the match itself, especially when it connects stories, identities, and playing styles in a way that feels bigger than a single result on a scoreboard. The Porsche Tennis Grand Prix has always had a reputation for delivering high-quality matchups early in the tournament. Indoor clay adds its own twist to everything, slightly faster conditions, more controlled environment, and a style of play that rewards precision just as much as patience. It's not just about grinding rallies here, it's about execution under pressure, about who can adapt faster when the rhythm shifts, and that's exactly why a potential meeting between these two players becomes so intriguing. On one side, you have Alexandra Eala, a player whose journey has been steadily building, not through sudden explosions of hype, but through consistent progress and visible growth. Training at the Rafael Nadal Academy, she's been shaped in an environment that prioritizes discipline, mental toughness, and a deep understanding of point construction. You can see it in the way she approaches rallies, the way she absorbs pressure before redirecting it, and the way she's starting to believe she belongs at this level. On the other side, there's Leylah Fernandez, a name that already carries memories of big-stage performances. Her run at the US Open wasn't just impressive, it was defining. It showed the tennis world that she has the ability to rise under pressure, to take on higher-ranked opponents without hesitation, and to turn moments into momentum. Even when results fluctuate, that kind of experience doesn't disappear. It stays there, waiting for the right moment to resurface. And that's where things get interesting. Because if the draw does bring these two together, you're not just watching a match between two players, you're watching a contrast between stages of a journey. One player still building her identity at the top level, the other already having experienced what it feels like to stand on one of the biggest stages in the sport. But there's another layer here that people can't stop talking about, and it has nothing to do with forehands or backhands. It's about heritage. Both players carry Filipino roots, and while tennis has seen countless matchups defined by nationality, this kind of connection adds something different. It creates a shared narrative that doesn't divide fans as much as it unites them in a strange, almost emotional way. It's not about choosing sides as aggressively, it's about witnessing representation on both ends of the court. Still, when the match starts, if it starts, all of that fades into the background and the real question becomes tactical. And this is where the matchup gets even more fascinating. Both players are left-handed, which immediately changes the geometry of the court. Patterns that usually work against right-handed opponents don't translate the same way here. Cross-court exchanges land differently, serve placements create new angles, and instinctive shot selection has to be recalibrated in real time. For Eala, this could be both a challenge and an opportunity. Facing a left-hander forces her to adjust patterns she's been developing, but it also gives her a chance to prove adaptability, something that separates good players from great ones. For Fernandez, it's a slightly different situation. She's already navigated high-pressure matches before, but dealing with a rising opponent who has nothing to lose can be unpredictable. That unpredictability can shift momentum in ways that statistics can't always predict. And speaking of momentum, that might be the single most important factor if this matchup becomes reality. Not rankings, not past titles, not even head-to-head history, but current rhythm. Tennis is a sport where confidence can change everything within a few games. A strong start, an early break, a couple of clean winners, and suddenly the entire dynamic shifts. What makes this potential encounter so compelling is that it sits right at the intersection of possibility and uncertainty. It's not locked in, it's not guaranteed, but it's close enough to feel real. And that's exactly the kind of situation that creates buzz before a single ball is even hit. Fans start imagining scenarios, analysts start breaking down matchups, and content creators start building narratives that bring even more attention to what might unfold. And as the draw approaches and the schedule begins to take shape, the question quietly grows louder. Not who will win, but will it even happen? Because if it does, it won't just be another early round mash. It will be a moment where storylines converge, where styles collide, and where two different paths in the sport briefly cross under the same roof in Stuttgart. And the closer we get to that possibility, the more it starts to feel like this isn't just about a match anymore. It's about timing, about momentum, and about whether everything aligns at just the right moment for something memorable to take place. And if that alignment happens, then all the quiet speculation suddenly turns into a very real spotlight, one that neither player can ignore, and one that could shape the way this entire clay season begins to unfold from that point forward. Because in tournaments like this, especially on indoor clay where conditions are controlled and margins are razor thin, the story rarely stays contained to just one round. It expands. One match becomes a doorway to another, and suddenly the entire draw starts to feel like a chain reaction of pressure points, each one influencing the next. That's exactly why this potential matchup has captured attention even before anything is officially locked in. If this meeting does happen between Alexandra Eala and Leylah Fernandez, it wouldn't just be about talent. It would be about timing. Both players are at stages in their careers where every win carries extra weight, not just for ranking movement but for identity building. One is still carving out consistency at the top level, while the other is constantly trying to reconnect with the level that once took her deep into a Grand Slam final. And that's what makes this scenario so layered. Fernandez brings experience, proven ability on the biggest stages, and the kind of shot-making that can shift momentum instantly. But she also enters any match with expectation attached to her name. That expectation doesn't disappear even during a dip in form. It follows her into every draw, every early round appearance, every moment where fans assume she should be controlling matches rather than surviving them. Eala, on the other hand, carries a different kind of pressure. Not expectation of dominance, but expectation of growth. Every match becomes a measuring point. Every set becomes a reference. People aren't asking whether she can dominate yet, they're asking whether she can sustain, whether she can absorb experience without breaking rhythm. That makes her dangerous in a completely different way. Because players in that phase often play with freedom, and freedom can be unpredictable. Now imagine those two energies colliding on indoor clay. Controlled surface, predictable bounce, minimal external variables. No wind, no weather shifts, no sudden environmental changes to break rhythm. It becomes a pure test of decision-making and mental response. Who adjusts faster? Who handles momentum swings better? Who stays composed when the score tightens? In matchups like this, the first few games often matter more than anything else. A break early can tilt the entire emotional structure of the set. And once that structure shifts, players start revealing patterns that don't always show up in pre-match analysis. A slightly safer second serve. A more aggressive return position. A hesitation in rally construction. Small things, but at this level, small things decide everything. That's why analysts and fans are already imagining what each player would try to do if the matchup becomes reality. Fernandez would likely aim to take control early in rallies, looking to dictate tempo and prevent Eala from settling into rhythm. Eala, meanwhile, would try to extend points just enough to force errors, to turn aggression into uncertainty, and to make experience feel heavier than it actually is. But there's also a psychological layer that can't be ignored. Because whenever a rising player faces someone with a bigger name or deeper resume, the first battle isn't physical, it's internal. It's about not letting the moment feel bigger than the game itself. And that's where training environments, match exposure, and recent experience start to matter more than raw talent. At the same time, tennis has a way of rewriting expectations very quickly. One strong set can flip perception. One momentum swing can turn pressure into opportunity. And that's why predictions around matches like this always feel unstable. Nothing is fixed until the last point is played. If the draw aligns and this matchup becomes real, the winner doesn't just move into the next round. They step into an entirely different level of attention. Later rounds in Stuttgart are stacked with top seeds and proven champions, meaning whoever survives this early test immediately gets thrown into an even more demanding environment. That adds another layer of pressure to a match that already feels emotionally loaded. And that's the quiet truth behind all of this speculation. It's not just about whether the match happens. It's about what it represents if it does. A snapshot of two different trajectories intersecting at a very specific moment in time, on a surface that rewards clarity, and in a tournament that has historically produced breakthrough performances. So as the tennis world waits for the draw to fully unfold and the schedule to settle into place, this potential matchup remains suspended somewhere between imagination and reality. Not confirmed, not denied, but close enough to feel like it could happen at any moment. And in the world of sports storytelling, that's often where the most attention begins to build. Because sometimes the most talked about matches are not the ones already played, but the ones everyone is quietly preparing themselves to witness.